Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for clicking. So basically today we're going to handle the final part of this project, the configuration part of this project. Remember the first part of this project we were to model the topology using Microsoft Visio, and we achieved such a diagram, this one. So this was the first part of this project through which we were to model the topology using Microsoft Visio. And now the second part, we were to simulate the design using Cisco Packet Tracer, of which we did here. So guys, if you have not watched the first part, second part, I will leave a link on the description part of the video. Click on the link and get access to these parts. Then come back to the final part, which is to configure the network topology. Okay, and if you are new to this channel, or even if you have not subscribed to our channel, we really plead with you. Support our channel, click on the subscribe button, like our video, and let's know what you're thinking on the comment section. Alright guys, so without any further ado, let's begin our project, the configuration part of the project 5. So guys, we have a case study here that we have to implement. And as we read the case study earlier, we said that there is a bank that is intending to open a branch in Africa, and it's to be located in Kenyan capital, Nairobi. And during design, we managed to know the floors plus the department in each floor, okay, and to model the first part, the network topology using Microsoft Visio. And number 2 was to simulate the design using Cisco Packet Tracer, of which we have done. So guys, we need to configure some technologies such as SPF, as you can see here, wireless network, as you can see here, IPv4 addressing and subnetting, DHCP server, HTTP and email servers, SSH, etc. etc. So guys, to save time, I have already highlighted few steps that we are going to follow to configure this topology here. So the first step will be to configure basic settings to all the devices plus SSH on the routers and layer 3 switches, okay, as highlighted here on the case study. So I'll begin with the layer 2 switches. In our configuration, we'll be doing as per layer 2, layer 3, layer 2 switches, then we go to layer 3 switches, and definitely to the core layer. So it's the access layer, distribution layer, and finally the core layer. So let's start with the access layer. Come to CLI. Then among the settings that we are required to implement includes host names, line VTOI and line console and VTOI passwords, banner messages, disable IP domain lookup, and also we are going to configure enable password and to encrypt all the configured passwords. So guys, without wasting any time, let's go very fast. So enable config t, then hostname, let's give it a hostname of floor 1 switch F1, management switch, then banner message, banner MOTD, then any characters, insert the 2 characters. You see this is floor 1 management switch, okay, and you hit enter. And then what's remaining, let me check. We have line console and VTOI passwords, so I'll just do line console first. Line console 0, then say password. Let's use Cisco. Authenticate the user, login, then exit the interface. Then now line VTOI, say line VTOI 0 to 15, line VTOI 0 to 15, then you hit enter and you say specify password. Let's use Cisco still, and then authenticate login and exit the interface. And then let's disable IP domain lookup. You just say no, IP domain lookup. Okay, and do hit enter, then enable password, enable password. Let's use Cisco. And finally, let me check what's remaining. Everything is configured, so we just have to encrypt all the password, service, password encryption, to encrypt all the passwords. Okay, alright, and do right. So guys, we managed to configure basic settings to only one switch, and you have almost 12 switches here. So guys, it's a lot of work, and what I'll do is to open Notepad, write some commands, then copy paste to all the 11 remaining switches. So the first command is always enable, and then we need to configure hostname. Let's say I will be giving identical name to all the switches, because I want to copy paste this command to all the switches. So in your case, you can use a different name for all the switches. That's a good strategy, but in my case, to save time, I'll be giving identical names to all the switches. So let's say switch 1, layer 2 switch. I'll just say layer 2 switch, just like that, one word with the hyphens, and then banner message, banner MOTD. Just say insert any character, then this is, I'll just copy this one. Okay, and then what's remaining? Line console 0, line console and V2I password. So I'll just say line console 0 password. Let's use Cisco. Then you log in the user, authenticate, and you exit the interface. Then you go to line V2I VTY. You go to line VTY also, line VTY 0 to 15, password Cisco, then authenticate the user and exit the interface. And now what's remaining is let me check. To disable IP domain lookup, just say no IP domain lookup. And to enable password for the privilege exec mode, enable password Cisco, and encrypt all the password. You just say service password encryption. Okay, and do right to save the configuration. So guys, I'll just copy all these commands to the switches, all of them. So I'll do it very fast to save time. So we are done with the layer 2 switches, and we'll move to the distribution layer to configure basic settings. So I'll start with the first layer 3 switch. So I'll click on that. Then you come to CLI, then enable config T. Then let's give it a host name. Let's say this is floor 1 layer 3 switch. Okay, then you hit enter. And then another basic setting that we need to set is banner message, banner MOTD. Then inside any character you say this is L3 switch. So I'm just giving a basic messages, but in your case you can give a very detailed and reasonable banner message. Okay, alright. So line console 0, then a password. I'll just maintain Cisco. Then you authenticate, log in the user, you exit the interface, then line VTY
0 to 15. Password should be Cisco also. Then you log in the user, exit the interface. Okay, and now what's remaining? Let me check on okay, we have this no IP domain lookup. Let's disable domain lookup. Okay, and now enable password to protect privilege exec mode. Enable password, still be Cisco. Then service password encryption to protect, or rather to encrypt all the passwords. Okay, so guys, and you know, we said here under here we said that we'll configure SSH on both the routers and layer 3 switches. So let's proceed to configure SSH on this switch here. How to configure SSH? What do? We make sure that the switch has a host name, then we give it IP domain name, let's say cisco.com or cisco.net. okay, then we create a username and password. Username, let's say Cisco also, just basic. Password to be Cisco. Okay, sorry, Cisco. Okay, then we generate crypto keys. Crypto key generate RSA. RSA is a encryption algorithm. Then you hit enter. A key modulus length of 1024. Just hit enter and write 1024. Okay, now let's enter line VTY 0 to 15. Login, you just say login local, then transport input SSH, exit, and do right. So guys, as you can see, we've configured SSH on this switch here. Okay, so I'll move on to configure SSH on the other remaining switches, but there's something that here that I want to explain. You know, when we were configuring SSH on this switch, we made a mistake to write this command here to configure line VTY. We should have configured line VTY at the same time we are configuring SSH. Okay, so in other switches we will omit the first configuration here. Okay, alright, so let me just go back to where I wrote the first commands. So here is where I wrote the commands for the layer 2 switches. So what I will modify here is let's say this is layer 3 switch, this is layer 3 switch, this is layer 3 switch, and so this is what I will modify here and delete it. Then let's start configuring SSH. What do? IP domain name, then you hit enter, then you create username Cisco, IP domain name what? Cisco.com .net. I forgot to write the domain name, which is cisco.net. You can write your own, even google.com. So username should be Cisco. Password, let's use Cisco again, and then you create crypto key, generate RSA, then you hit enter and write the key modulus length, which is 1024, right? Then you will enter line VTY. Now line VTY, do you remember when I deleted them? So now you read from 0 to 15, then you just say login local, okay, and transport input SSH, then you exit that interface. Okay guys, so I think we can copy these commands to all other remaining layer 3 switches. And remember, we said we are going to configure the same basic settings in all the routers and layer 3 switches. So in the case of the routers, I'll just modify here to be the router and here to be this is the router. And I said also guys that I'll be giving the same name to all the devices because I want to save time. That's why I'm copy pasting. But in your case, you have to take your time and give a desirable and appropriate name to each device, please. Okay, so IP domain name cisco.com is right, username Cisco, password Cisco is correct, crypto key generate RSA, right, 1024, right, then line VTY, right. Okay, so I'll copy all of them to all other remaining switches. I'll go to the first switch, the second switch I mean, and do the same. So let me paste and check if everything has been configured successfully. Okay, we've not got any error. We don't have any error, I mean. Okay, so the other switch also. Remember, I'm giving them the same name because I'm just copy pasting to save time. Also, finally, this switch here. Okay, so guys, we've configured basic settings to access layer, distribution layer, and finally we have to configure to the core layer. And what we'll just modify here is layer to be router. Let's say core layer router, core layer router, Evo. And you have to remember that I'm giving them the same name because I want to save time. And in your case, don't give two devices the same name. And the basic setting will remain the same. SSH will remain the same. No IP domain lookup will remain the same. Okay, so I'll copy to all the remaining routers, other routers I mean. Okay, so I'll start with this one. And paste. Do it very fast, save time. Okay, so we have done with the step 1 that we highlighted. Remember, in our steps, step 1 was to configure basic settings, step 2 VLANs, then step 3 switch port security, step 4 subnetting and IP addressing, step 5 OSPF, then step 6 a static IP address to the server room devices, step 7 DHCP server, step 8 Inter-VLAN routing, step 9 wireless network configuration, and finally step 10 was to verify and test configuration. So guys, without wasting time, let's move to step 2, which is to configure VLANs and assign ports the role of access or trunk. And I will combine step 2 and step 3 because they will be applied to access layer switches. Okay, alright, so if you analyze this diagram here, we want to identify which port that we will configure as trunk and which port that we will configure as access ports. The two ports, this one and this one, are connected to switch this one and switch this one, meaning they should be trunk ports, and these ones that are connected to the host devices should be access ports. So we have known the access ports and trunk ports. Okay, so I'll just obtain the information. That is 0 FA0/1, and the other one is FA0/2, this one. So FA0/1 to FA0/2 should be trunk ports, and the remaining one should be access ports because we'll be connecting host devices there. So guys, without any further ado, let's begin configuring VLANs. So we've said interface range FA0/1 to 2 should be trunk ports, okay, because they are connected with other switches, this one and this one. Okay, alright, so I hit enter and say switch port mode trunk, and you hit enter. Good. Exit. Alright, so we need to create VLANs. Remember, we have VLAN 10 here, so let's say VLAN 10. VLAN 10 name should be management, something like that, and exit. Okay, and now we need to assign ports a VLAN number. Okay, VLAN number 10. Alright, so interface range FA0/3 to 24. Remember 0/1 to 2 were trunk ports, so from 3 to 24 should be access ports. Okay, and there should be assigned a VLAN number 10. Okay, hit enter and you say switch port mod trunk. Okay, sorry, switch port mod access, then switch port access VLAN 10 and you hit enter. Alright, and guys, we said also that we will be combining step 3 and step 2 and step 3 because we want to configure switch port security to all the access ports. Okay, so let's configure switch port security to these ports here, this range here. Okay, so I'll just say switch port security, do you write it? Port secure, good. Then switch port security, just a minute, port security maximum. We need we want each port to accept at least 2 MAC addresses, 2 devices. So let's say 2. Okay, then switch port, I'll just try to switch port security MAC address. We need to obtain MAC address through sticky command. Okay, sticky command dynamically. They need to accept only 2 MAC addresses, and the MAC addresses should be obtained automatically through sticky command. Okay, and hit enter. Then switch port, just a minute, switch port security violation mode should be shut down. Okay, and let me check what is remaining. Switch port security, switch port maximum number 2, then MAC address, sticky command, and violation mode shutdown. So guys, basically we've configured switch port security and VLAN numbers to the switch ports from range 3 to FA0/3 to 24. Okay, so what I'll do, let's say do write exit the interface and do show start. Let's check. Okay, as you can see guys, from port 01 and 02 are trunk, and now from 03 to 24 are access. Then switch port security is configured, VLAN 10, and a maximum number of devices that can be connected to this port is only 2, and the MAC addresses will be obtained through a sticky command. Okay, and do show port security. Okay, as you can see, a violation mode of shutdown. Right, proceed to configure other remaining switches with the same settings. So I'll just open this notepad here and delete those, and let me go to this switch here and check which interface are this. FA01, and this one is just a minute, FA02. It's just a pattern, FA02, and this one is FA01. Yes, FA01. So guys, it's just a pattern. Okay, so I'll just say interface range FA0/1 to 2, hit enter. Switch port mode trunk. Okay, then you exit the 2 interfaces, and now you enter other remaining interfaces. Is interface range FA0/3 to 24. Okay, then you say switch port mode access, then switch port access VLAN 20 for research, because we've configured the first switch here VLAN 20. Okay, alright, so then you configure switch port security, switch port port security, okay, then again switch port security maximum, 2 devices, then switch port security MAC address through sticky command, sticky, okay, then switch port security violation mode, violation, or do you write violation mode? Let me just check how I wrote it. It is violation mode or violation. It's just violation, not violation. Just it's a violation mode, but when you write the command, you just write violation shutdown. Okay, so guys, I'll just copy paste all these codes to the second switch. Okay, this switch here. Okay, we've not gotten any error, so do show port security. It's okay. Let's save the configuration, do right, exit. So let's move to the pad switch. So I believe you've mastered how to write the commands on Notepad, and now just move very fast to save time.
As you can see, I've completed the second and third steps that we were to involve, and I've configured VLANs, access and transports, and finally switch port security. And I was just using this pattern here. As you can see, the first 2 ports were trunk ports, so you have to make sure that your first 2 ports are transport. This one and this one are FA01 and FA02, and now from 3 to 24 are access ports, and you assign the respective VLAN numbers. Okay, alright, so guys, we can move to the next step, which is step 4. So I'll just click the steps here. So step 4 is about subnetting and IP addressing, and I already done that because we have to save time here. We have a lot of devices and a lot of configuration, so I did that earlier. And if you have not gotten any concept about subnetting, I'll show you a video or a project that we recorded earlier that has a really detailed explanation of subnetting. So just go to our channel and go to playlist, and under playlist just expand this one, expand again, come to enterprise networking. Okay, then project 3, this one, the enterprise networking project 3, hotel management, network design and implementation. It really has a good explanation of subnetting. So get yourself this project, understand the basic of subnetting. Okay, so this is our addressing table. As you can see, first floor we had management, research and human resource. Then second floor we had marketing, accounts and finance, etc. and etc. And also between the routers, guys, and the layer 3 switches, remember I said in this topology here we are going to configure routing
on both the layer 3 switch and the routers. So we have to implement IP addressing on the layer 3 switches also. So this is the addressing table for the layer 3 switches and the routers. Okay, alright. So as you can see here, in the first floor management, we had a network address of this one and a subnet mask of this one, meaning the range of host devices will be from .1 to 62, and then 63 will be our broadcast address. Same applies to research department, human resource department, and second floor, third floor, and fourth floor. Okay guys, so what I'll do, I'll just comment here on the network diagram about these networks, this network address. Okay, so I'll start with management address, management department, then research, human resource, and so on and so forth. So I'll do that very fast. So just a minute. So guys, as you can see, we have included IP addresses, network addresses to every department. For example, management department, you have this network address, research department, this network address, etc, as per our addressing table here. Okay, so guys, if you want this addressing table, just take a screenshot of this video and use this one if you want to use it, and also this one if you want to use it. Let me just place it at a very favorable location just for the first floor and second floor, that's addressing table, and third floor and fourth floor. Okay, so as you can see, this was the addressing table between the routers and layer 3 switches. Okay, and as you can see, we have IP addresses at the layer 3 switches, connecting layer 3 switches and the core layer routers all around. Okay, so what I'll do is to configure trunk ports here on the switches, because you know these are the trunk ports and now this should be trunk ports. So I'll configure all of these to be trunk ports, 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, all of this to be trunk. Okay, and you know this one and this one will configure to have IP address as a layer 3 interface. Okay, so let me just check the interfaces. Gig 003, and this one is gig 004, and finally this one is gig 008. So I'll assume from gig 103 to gig 108 are trunk interfaces. Same will apply to this one, because I was very consistent while connecting the devices. So I'll just confirm, then do the same command for all the devices. I believe same will apply to all these also. Let me just confirm first. Okay, I can see it's consistent. Okay, so I'll just write the few commands. I'll say interface, it's a gig 10, just a minute, 103 1/0/328 switch port mount trunk, and exit the interfaces and do right. Okay, so I'll copy and paste to all the switches like here. Okay, that's okay. So we have allocated all the networks to all the required places, and as you can see on our topology here, we have the networks at every departments, plus the network between the routers and between the routers and the layer 3 switches. So guys, basically what I'll do, I'll configure IP addresses to these interfaces. So I'll start with the layer 3 switches, and to configure an IP address to a layer 3 switch, let me show you the process. Just click on that layer 3 switch, you come to CLI, and password was Cisco, enable, and Cisco again, then config T. To configure an IP address to an interface, a port in a layer 3 switch, we must turn it to a layer 3 interface first. Okay, so just check which interfaces are these: gig 012 and gig 01. Just again, gig 01. So it's interface range gig 1/0/1 to 2. Okay, that's right. Then you say no switch port. This command here will make the layer 2 port to be a layer 3 interface. Okay, just hit enter. Okay, and now we can assign IP address to any of those interfaces. Just exit. Okay, so let me just hover. Okay, good. So what I'll do, let me just check first, do show start. So as you can see, the first two are layer 3 interfaces. So what I'll do basically is to assign IP addresses to these interfaces. I'll start with this one, then we come to gig 102. So gig 101 should take 10.10.10. the first IP address, which is .1. Okay, so I'll just say interface. So I'll omit the range, then IP address should be 10.10.10.1 and a subnet mask of 255.255.255.255 252 because the prefix is /30 notation. Hit enter, then you exit the interface, and now you configure of gig 102. Gig 102 takes this network, which is a 10.10.10.8. now the first IP address will be .9. okay, hit enter and you configure .9 here. .9, hit enter, exit, and do right. So we have completed configuring IP address to this switch here. So I will do to this switch, this one, and this one very fast. I hope you've mastered how to configure IP addresses. So I'm just using this addressing table that I prepared earlier. You know, this project got a lot of devices, and we needed to configure huge amount of configuration. So I had to save time and write this in advance. So this was addressing table between the routers and layer 3 switches, and this was between, on the floors and the departments. Okay, right. So I'll go to this one and configure IP addresses. I'll do that one very fast. Okay guys, so I have completed the IP configuration to the layer 3 switch interfaces. I've configured these interfaces, the one that are connected to the routers with the IP addresses, because we said we will be configuring routing to the layer 3 switches, and the routers. Okay, so I'll proceed to configure IP addresses to the routers. So I'll start with this router here, and remember, using these networks, I have assigned the first host ID to the layer 3 interfaces, layer 3 switch interfaces. So the routers will take the second valid host IDs. Okay, alright, so I'll start with this one. Gig 01. Gig 01 should be this network, this one. Let me check again. Yes, so it should take .2. Okay, so IP address 10.10.10.2 255.255.255.252. Good. exit. Okay, so let's go to the other interface which is connected to this network. So that one is just a minute, gig 02. So its interface gig 02 should take this network which is .4, and now it should, this one took .5, it now should take .6. Okay, so it's very easy. You just have to be very careful when you're configuring IP addresses to the interfaces. So exit this one, then another one. I want to configure this one first. I want to configure this one first. That one is this one, I mean gig 00. So interface gig 00, IP address should be, let me check, if this one is 28, it should be 28, 29 and 30. So here we'll take 29, here 30. Okay, so 29. It's quite challenging, but you have to be very careful. Alright, so guys, we need to configure IP addresses to the serial interfaces, and there's additional information that I want to add about the serial interfaces. We have to configure a clock rate to the serial interfaces with the DCE. So just hover over this, just hover over any serial interface, and wherever you see a clock, that is a serial with the DCE. So for example, I can see a clock here. If I hover here, I'll see a serial with a clock, and if I hover here, I'll see a serial with a clock. See, just a minute, let me just do this. So as you can see here, this is a serial with the DCE, also this is a serial with the DCE, this is a serial with the DCE, and this is a serial with the DCE. You see this clock here. Okay, so we need to set a clock rate to those interfaces. Alright, so I'll start with this one, and I'll say interface range. There are two interfaces with DCE interface serial. Let me check again. 0202021. Okay, 0/2/0 to 1. Interface range, no problem. I'll just use each individual interface and assign IP address before I move to the next one. Okay, so 020 should take which network? Just a minute. (10.10.30) 10.10.33. Okay, IP address, so I'll just add 33 here. Okay, exit. And now the other interface, which is 21, should take 10.10.10. I'll check it again. 17. Okay, and I forgot to add a clock rate to the first interface. I'll do it. This one should be clock 17, then clock rate. Just say clock rate, just use 64,000, delete and exit. And let's turn to the other interface, which is this one, and let's configure clock rate of 64,000. 1 2 3, exit and do that. So we have configured IP addresses to all the interfaces in this router. So I'll just move over that router, and you will see all the interfaces are configured with IP addresses. Okay, alright, so I'll move to this router and do it very, very fast, because I have shown you how to do it here. You just click, you just move over this interfaces to check which one is a serial DCE interface. Okay, and for a serial DCE interface you should add a clock rate. Okay, so let me go to this router here and configure the same very fast. So I'll go very fast. Okay, so we have completed configuring IP addresses to the routers. So I'll just save and hover over the router and check. Okay, this is okay, this is okay, and that's okay. So guys, basically our step 4 is done. Step 4, that was about subnetting and IP address configuration. And now step 5 is to configure OSPF on the routers and layer 3 switches. Okay, so SPF is very easy to configure, and I will do that very fast to save time. So to identify which networks that a router will advertise during OSPF configuration, we should check the direct connected networks. For example, this router here is connected to how many networks? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And what about a layer 3 switch? Let's count. For a layer 3 switch, it's connected to a lot of networks, you know. For example, this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 8 networks. So each router will advertise 5 networks, but each layer 3 switch will advertise how many networks? 8 networks. Okay, so I'll start with OSPF configuration on the router. Click on this router. Okay, so router OSPF, make the router aware that it's using OSPF with the process ID of 10. Okay, and now let's advertise the available networks: 10.0, 10.4, 10.16, 10.28, and 10.32. Okay, so network 10.10.10.0, and the wildcard mask of, we now use a wildcard mask. Subnet mask was /13 notation, so we have to use a wildcard mask of 0.0.0.3. Okay, if you don't know how to calculate this wildcard mask, kindly search about it. So a wildcard mask of /30 notation will be this one. Okay, and area, let's this one to be area 0. Okay, enter. Okay, so another network is 10.4, same area 0. Another network will be 10.16, 10.16. Another network will be 10.28 and 10.32. 10.28 and 10.32. okay, now exit and do right. So we have advertised all the routes, all the networks that are connected to this router here. So let's go to this router and do the same. Exit, router, OSPF, process ID 10. Then the networks are network will be 10.32 first, and then 10.20, 10.36, 10.48, and 10.40. So I'll start by 10, 10.10.10.32, 32, and wildcard mask of 0.0.0.3 area 0. Another network is 10.10.20. hit enter. Another one is .36.48 and .40. okay, as you can see, they have formed adjacency with the other interface of the router. Okay, another one is it's 20. Let me just check again. Sorry, 36, 48, and 40. So that is 36, then 48 and 40, 48 and 40 and 40. So exit, do right. So let's proceed to configure SPF on this router and on this router very fast. So we proceed to configure OSPF on the layer 3 switches. Okay, very simple and fast. So I'll click on the layer 3 switch, come Cisco, enable Cisco config. Alright, so you have to check how many. The first thing that we have to do, guys, is to enable routing on this switch. Just say IP routing. Just say IP routing and hit enter. So we have enabled routing on the layer 3 switch. So let's advertise all the networks that are available on the layer 3 switch here. So one is 10.10.0, another one is 10.10.8. okay, so I'll just say network. So router ISPF 10, then network 10.10.10.0 0.0.0.3 area 0. It's okay. So I want to check if it will form adjacency with the other interface, but let's just give it some time. And now another one is this network, which is 10.8. So as you can see, it has formed adjacency with the router's interface. That's okay. That's a relief. Okay, so we have to, another network is .8. okay, between the routers, this one now. Yes, so this one and this one. So let's advertise all these networks. Remember, this layer 3 switch is connected to all other switches, and each switch is connected to a department having a different network. Okay, so it's a quite a tedious job, but I'll do it very fast. And now I'll just open Notepad and edit. So as you can see, everything is okay. We have formed adjacency here on the router, and now here on the layer 3 switch also we have formed how many adjacencies too. So I'll try to copy this one. I'll copy and paste to our notepad here. Paste that one here. So the first network is 192.168.10.0 and subnet mask of 20 subnet mask of /26 notation 0. So /26 notation is equivalent to the last value will be 192. So 192 minus 255 will be 63. Okay, dot 63 area 0. So another one will be, just a minute, we need how many of them? 8. So I'll copy. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 8. So the second one will be 64, then 128, then 128. That one should be 192. Let me just check again. Just give me some time. Yes, so I'll do it very fast, save time. This one should be 192, and now here should be 11.0 and 11.64. Here now 11.128 and 11.192. Let me check. How many networks are we supposed to advertise? 6, not 8. There are 6. We have advertised 2. They were 8. Now we have to advertise 6 of them. 1 2 3 4 5 6. So it's 6. We have to advertise 6 networks now. Okay, so I'll delete the remaining. I won't copy this one. Just okay. Alright, so I'll copy this one to our layer 3 switch. This one, not that one, but the first one, and paste. Okay, do right. So we have configured SPF on this layer 3 switch, and I've shown you how to go about it. So I'll move to this one, and this one very fast. Okay guys, so as you can see, these routers here have formed, these layer 3 switches have formed adjacencies with the routers, and as you can see, this one also 2 adjacencies with the routers, and so on and so forth. So guys, basically I think we have completed our step 5, which was to configure SPF on the routers and layer 3 switches. So we'll move to step 6 to configure static IP address to the server room devices. Okay, all right. Server room devices are here. Okay, all right. So you have DHCP server, email server, and HTTPS server. So I'll start with the DHCP server. And you know, this is the network. This is the network 192.168.12.192. This separate mask. Okay, all right. So I'll just try to copy this one. Static IP address, copy, come to DHCP server, come to config or desktop, IP configuration, come to static, then it should be 190. Let's start from 196. Okay, so 196, because we want DHCP server, I mean their default gateway to be 193. Here is the network is 192, so the first valid host should be our default gateway. Okay, which should be 193, and the subnet mask of 192.192/26 notation. Okay, all right. So let's move to the other devices. So that's done. That step is done. Let me open the steps again. DHCP server device configuration. So guys, we need to configure DHCP server, this one. We said in this network we'll be using only this device to allocate IP address to all other devices in the network. Okay, very simple. So I'll click on DHCP server, and you go to services, follow keenly, go to services, then DHCP, put it on. And now guys, you know, we have to create pools. For example, I'll start with first floor departments. So first floor we have management, research, and human resource. So I'll create how many pools? 3 pools for the first floor. So pool name will be manage. Let's just use MGT pool. Okay, and the default gateway, since the network is this one, the default gateway should be, let me just show you, 10.1. okay, 192.168.10.1. and DNS server, I won't configure DNS servers per now. And now we want to, just a minute. Okay, so it should be from 10. Starting at IP address should be 10.10. Let's use 5.6. okay, so the first host ID, the first host device will have .6. We have to exclude from 1 to 5. Alright, so this is the now let's use 660. This is the subnet mask, it's correct, and click add. So as you can see, management pool has this information. This is our default gateway. Starting IP address would be 10.6 and subnet mask of this one. Alright, so you have to add another pool that is called research pool. Research pool will be from 64. Now that is, if this is the network, now the default gateway should be 65, and starting IP address I want it to be, let's say 70. Okay, alright, and I just click add. So here is our research pool. It has this information. Management pool has this information. Now let's add another pool that is called HR pool. HR pool has 128 So the first valid will be 129, and we want it to start from 134. Okay, and just click add. So this is our HR pool basic information. That's okay. And now we move to second floor. It's very simple. It's very simple. Okay, so second floor we have 10.192. 10.192. So that is the second floor will be called marketing MKT, and 192. So the first valid will be 193, and let's start from 19, just a minute, 197. Okay, and we had, okay, MKT information are correct. Then we move to finance department, which has 11. Accounts department, which have 11.0. Accounts pool ACC, it has 11.0. Okay, now here should be 11, and now it should be start from 5, and you add ACC, they are correct. Then you move to finance pool. Finance pool, now here should be 65, I mean 65, because you know the network is .64. Let me just do it fast, and I come back to the 70. I come back to the previous pool. 64, 65, good. Alright, okay, it's okay. I want to come back to accounts pool. I think I made a mistake. Here should be .1. You save. To make changes, you just save. Okay, so you have to add another pool for, let me check. Okay, we have existed first floor and second floor. So let's move to the third floor and fourth floor. So very first, logistics pool. Logistic pools have, I think, just a minute. Marketing, accounts, and finance. Okay, no problem. So logistics pool will have, if this one is, just a minute. Okay, logistics pool will have the correct. Okay, that's correct. That's okay. I'll do it very fast. Save time. Logistic pool 128, 129 now. Okay, then you will start from 134. Logistics pool, that's okay, and you had. Okay, then we go to customer care. Customer 192, now 193. The default gateway will be 193, and now this one should start from 197. Okay, you add customer pool, then guest should be guest should be 12.0, 12.1 now. Okay, that's 12, and from 5, and we add, that's guest pool. Then we move to admin, ICT, and server room. Server room we are not going to configure DCP because we are allocated statically. So you have to add admin and the ICT. Yeah. So as admin pool should be 12.64, 65 now, and now this one should be 70. Okay, and then finally ICT pool. So guys, I hope you've mastered how to configure DHCP server device 129. Then there will be 134. Okay, good. So we have how many pools? 11 pools, because we had 12 departments and one department was to be configured statically. Alright, so as you can see, we have ICT admin, guest, etc, etc. So we have exhausted this step here, 7th and 6th step. So we have to go to configure Inter-VLAN routing on the layer 3 switches plus IP DHCP helper device. Guys, this is becoming more interesting. I want to explain about this thing, this IP DHCP helper address. You know, DHCP is located in a different network, and these devices on this side will need an helper IP address, or these devices on this side will need an helper DHCP interface to reach this device here. Okay, alright, so that's what we are going to configure right now. So let's configure Inter-VLAN routing on the layer 3 switches. Okay, the first thing that we have to do is to create VLANs to these layer 3 switches. Okay, alright, so I'll create how many VLANs here on this side. I'll create how many VLANs? 20 and up to 10, 20, 10, 20, 30, 40, 60. Okay, so I'll just be creating random VLANs. VLAN 10, VLAN 20, let me copy 6 of them, 30, 40, 50, 30, 40, 50 and 60. Okay, alright, so then how to configure Inter-VLAN routing on a layer 3 switch. The first thing that you have to do, you should create VLANs. You have to check which VLAN IDs are connected to that layer 3 switch. For example, this layer 3 switch is connected to all other access layer switches, and each access layer switch has a different VLAN number. So it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 and 60. Okay, alright, so you have to create VLAN like this, and now you start configuring Inter-VLAN routing. So you just say interface VLAN 10. Okay, and now the interface VLAN 10 will be our default gateway. Okay, then you say no shutdown. Okay, and you assign it an IP address. So guys, for interface VLAN 10, you will assign it the first host ID here, because it will act as the default gateway to this subnet, this department here. Okay, alright, so IP address should be 192.168.10.1, a subnet mask of 255.255.255.192. okay, then you exit that interface, then you go to interface VLAN 20 and you do the same. So I'll copy interface VLAN 20, a network of .65 now, then interface VLAN 30, a network of just a minute, 129. Okay, so before I proceed further, I want to tell you about IP address based on IP DHCP helper address. So let's start with this one. First we have to copy the layer 3 switch, any of the layer 3 switch on this side, then Cisco enable Cisco config t. Okay, and I paste. Exit. Do show VLAN database. Do show VLAN. Okay, we have 10, 20, 30, and 40, 50, 60. Okay, so let's start with configuring IP address to interface VLAN 10. Interface VLAN 10. Okay, no shut. Good. Then IP address should be 192.168.10.1, subnet mask of 255.255.255.192. Okay, then IP DHCP helper address. Is it really IP helper address? Okay, just write IP helper address. Then you give an IP address of the DHCP server. Very interesting. So now you come here, you give the IP address of the DHCP server. This one. So this is our DHCP server. You take that IP address and use it as helper address. Okay, IP DHCP server, IP helper address, that one. Okay, so I'll be copying this because we'll be using for all the configuration the same command. Okay, alright, so I'll just come here and paste here. That's for interface VLAN 10, interface VLAN 20, interface VLAN 30. Let me do for VLAN 40, 50, and 60. Copy. So this is 40. So VLAN 40 will have 10.193 here. Everything remains the same, such as IP DHCP, IP helper address, and then for the time being, just a minute. VLAN 50. Okay, VLAN 50 is 11.0.1 now because it's the first host ID there. Then VLAN 60 is 65 now, 11.65.65. Good. Okay, alright, so I'll copy everything and paste. Before that, let me just write do write and copy everything. And now that configuration will apply to this switch and this switch. Very interesting. And just paste, exit first, just paste everything. Okay, so do write. Then we come to this switch also and exit, and we paste the same configuration. And now let's analyze this final side. Configure Inter-VLAN routing. So for Inter-VLAN routing, we have to VLAN 70, 120, 128, VLAN 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, and 120. So I'll change this one. This one will be 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, and 120. Okay, let me confirm. 110 and to 120, it's okay. Okay, so let's modify IP addresses. So let's modify IP addresses. Okay, so this is for VLAN 70, interface VLAN 70. IP helper address remains the same. Okay, and now the network is 11.128. 11.128. That's the network. Network is 11.128. Now the default gate will be 11.129. Very simple. Okay, now this will be 11.193. 11.193 for VLAN 80. 11.193. 11.193. Okay, for VLAN 90 it will be 12.1. 12.1. VLAN 90 12.1. So 12.1. Now for VLAN 100, for VLAN 100 it will be 12.65. 12.65. 12.65. 12.65. 65. Okay, 12.65. then VLAN 110. Finally VLAN 110 will be 12.129. 12.129. here. This should be 110, and then 12.129. it's okay. And finally VLAN 120. 120. It will not have this part because we assigned IP addresses statically. Okay, so it won't have any help address, so this one should be 12.193. 193. Let me confirm. Yes, so it's 193. So I'll copy all this configuration to the two layer 3 switches. Okay, so it's quite much easier. Copy. It's a lot of configuration, but just have to be very careful. Steps have to be very exit. Good. So do right. Then we move to this switch here. Exit. Do right. Okay, so guys, I think we have configured most of the technologies here, and what's remaining just wireless network configuration and to verify and test the configuration. Before I can configure wireless network, I'll test if DHCP is functioning. So I'll go to any of this PC and come desktop, then IP, and click DHCP and wait. Okay, so guys, as you can see, it's successful. DHCP is successful. Okay, then I'll go again to this device here, come to DHCP. So you have to give it a successful, very impressive. Then this one also. So just have to give it some time. Good, everything's working as expected. So this department here, it's okay. And what about this department? Let's put this DHCP and come here, check. Yes, it's successful. And this department, let's put DHCP. It's successful. Now what about this department? It's okay. And okay, right. So let's move to this side also and start with the above devices, like this one. You come to IP configuration and come to static. and let's just give it time. Okay, as you can see, DHCP successful, and this one also come to static. Okay, DHCP successful, and this one also come to DHCP. DHCP it's successful, I mean. Okay, and this device, let's just give it time. Okay, everything is working as intended. So finally this one and that one. Oh, that one, let me check. Okay, so we have a problem with this PC. We have a problem with that network. And what about this one? We have a problem with the two VLANs. I think we have a problem with the two VLANs. I don't know where we went wrong. We have a problem with these two VLANs. We have a problem with these two VLANs. Let me go to DHCP server and check if they were allocated correctly. Services, DHCP. So it's accounts and finance. So accounts and finance. So it should be 11.1. Okay, that's fine. 11.1, that's fine. Now finance, why is it bringing errors? 11.65, it's okay. So the problem might be during configuration of Inter-VLAN routing. So I'll check VLANs 50 and 60 if I went wrong. Oh no, this is where I went wrong, guys. As you can see, I didn't configure any VLAN. I need to reconfigure them again. You can see where I went wrong. Here, VLAN 10, 20, 30, 40, then 20 and 30 instead of 50 and 60. That's so absurd, man. So I need to reconfigure all of them, I mean. This is so bad. Do show start. So I will have to copy for VLAN 10. That's okay. VLAN 20. That's wrong. So guys, I need to reconfigure that again. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. Shouldn't have done that. So I have to reconfigure those two devices again. This one for Inter-VLAN routing. I made a mistake. That's why I like working in teamwork, in team. So VLAN 10. VLAN 10 should be 10.1. 10.1. Okay, that's okay. Then VLAN 20 should be 10.65. 10.65. And everything is okay. VLAN 30 should be 10.129. 129. Then VLAN 40. VLAN 40 should be VLAN 40 should be 193. 10.193. 193. And then VLAN 50 should be 11.1. 11.1. And finally VLAN 60 should be, let me copy this one, copy and paste here. VLAN 60 should be 11.65. Okay, so I believe if I have I configure this there, everything will work. So first of all, copy to these two devices, paste that. Okay, so do show start. Okay, 10.1, 10.65, 10.129, okay, 10.123, okay, then 11.1, 11, okay, so I believe they will work. Then I come to this one and do the same. Exit and paste. Okay, do right. So I believe they will work. If we try again, so let's just give it time. If it will request. Good, it's now working. And as you can see, it has given IP address of 11.71. That's okay. And this one also, let me just check if it will work. Okay, everything is now fine. Okay guys, so what else can I do? Let me see, what else can I do? Okay, I need to configure DNS server here. You know, when I was configuring DHCP, I forgot to configure DNS server. So for a DNS server, I will configure just an IP address of this just a minute. I'll use this as our DNS server for all the pools. ICT DNS server, save, admin, DNS server, save, guest, save. Now you come to DNS here and you write something like www.e.t.c.com and you give it an IP address of the one that you've been using. Okay, and you save, and you add and turn on the DNS server. So guys, I just want to copy this one, www.e.t.c.com, copy, save. Okay, so I come to any of these devices, then static and DHCP again. So we'll see that IP address. As you can see, DNS server is this one. Okay, and now if you come to web browser and you input www.e.t.c and you hit go, you can see it's going through. It can resolve this domain name to IP address. Okay guys, so lastly, the last step is wireless configuration. I will only configure one access point and leave the rest for your practice purpose. Let me just configure any, like this one. So you come to config and port 1, give it a Wi-Fi name of let's say this is finance Wi-Fi. Okay, and authentication password, use this one, WPA2 PSK, let's say finance at 2022. Now I copy this one, I copy and close. You come to devices and let's take a laptop or any other device, and let me use tablet, or rather just laptop. But for laptop, you know, it doesn't have any wireless, doesn't have wireless card, so you have to turn it off remove this one and take this one and place there and turn it on again. Then you come to desktop, PC wireless, and you come to connect, and let's check any available wireless connection. Okay, so I will need one that is called finance Wi-Fi, this one, and connect. Password is that one, and connect. Okay, so that's okay. Alright, so let's try to ping. Let's try to ping this. This is 10.70. The laptop is 10.70. Just a minute. 11.70, not 10.70. It is 11.70. So I'm going to try to ping to 11.70. So let me ping from this PC to 11.70. Ping 192.168.11.70. So just give it time. It will ping successfully, although the first packet will always fail, but the subsequent ones will be successful. Okay. Alright, so what's the IP address of this PC here? It's 12.134. So 12.134, let me try to ping from this PC here. 12.134. That one was 12.134, but that one, you see, this one, you see 10.6. So 10.6 will ping 192.168.12.134. Successful, guys. So guys, basically I think we have implemented everything as required on our case study. As you can see, everything is working. DHCP is working. The only thing that is remaining, because of time, is to configure the email servers and HTTP servers, which are very, very easy. But for the interest of time, guys, I don't want this project to exceed 2 hours. So I'll end the video as per now. And in case you need this packet tracer file, or you need this IP addressing table, or this PDF file, please join our channel membership and email me. I will send everything to you after you have joined. And basically that will mark the end of this project. Kindly tune on, subscribe to our channel, like our video, leave a comment below, and let's see you again in the 6th project. Bye, and thank you for watching.